welcome the Justice of the Peace candidates, of which there are 5. We have one, Harlan Wells, who could not make it tonight. He was deeply sorry. He had a conflict that's been set up for months and months and months. We decided to make an exception to the rule and allow his partner here tonight to do a short introduction for him when we go through the introductions of all the candidates. We have pieces of paper that are being passed around. If you have questions for the Justice of the Peace candidates, we'll have pieces of paper going around. Hand them in to Pam, or maybe someone else would help collect questions. Charlie?
I will go collect questions.
Charlie Carpenter would also help collect questions. We're going to start with 2-minute introductions of candidates. Candidates have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Mary is here keeping time, and she has signs that alert them to when they are running out of time. We also have Missoula Community Access Television here taping this debate, which will air, I think, on Thursday or something.
Someone's going to go first.
I would like to start with Harlan. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm sorry. My name is Kari Honerson. I am Harlan Wells' wife.
Would you like to speak into a microphone so it can be picked up by Community Access Television?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. As you said earlier, Harlan does apologize for not being here. He certainly would have liked it. I'm not much of a public speaker, so I'll just make it short. And thank you all for being here and listening to everybody. And we'll move on from there. So, thank you.
We'll start on this side with you and do a 2-minute introduction. We'll just go down the table. Thank you for being here, Justice of the Peace candidate.
All right. My name is Beverly Smith. I'm running for Justice of the Peace Department 1. I've worked in Justice Court now for 8 years. I've worked with the county for 14 years, first in the Treasurer's Department, and then I transferred to Justice Court, where I became a lead there. And then when the course reorganized, I became Judge Odlin's criminal clerk. So the reason I'm running for Justice of the Peace is because I've been watching it being done for so long now, and I just really think that I would like the position to make necessary changes and to continue to work hard and have a voice in what Justice Court does in the future. And what I've noticed over the years working there is that about 10% of the people we deal with create 90% of the problems. And I think what we need is a Justice of the Peace that is able to recognize those 10% and be hard on them and let the other 90% come, take care of their issues, and get out. So I'd like to increase the efficiency of the court. I'd like to increase the hours possibly, make the way to have access to the court much easier for payments and for initial appearances. I know and I'm very familiar with the rules of Justice Court, and no, I am not an attorney, but I believe that the Justice Court is the people's court, and I believe that I know people, and I'd like to put that knowledge to use for the city and the county of Missoula and make it a very welcoming place for people that just have to deal with the court issues once or twice. But I want to make it a very hard place for people that continue to use Justice Court. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Lowy. My experience, accountability, and commitment to healthy families are what make me the best candidate to serve as Missoula County's next Justice of the Peace. I've been a prosecutor for the last decade. I've worked in the civil side, I've worked in the criminal side, I've tried over 100 cases to both judges and juries throughout the state of Montana. And my experience has given me an opportunity to see what works and what doesn't work. I wasn't always a lawyer though. You know, before I went to law school, I worked as a liaison at a international debt collection agency. I also worked in a kitchen. I worked as a dishwasher, and I worked my way up as a line cook and a prep cook until I was the head line cook. And I also got to serve as a bartender briefly. And before that, I was a ski instructor teaching children. And before that, I was a summer camp instructor teaching children to appreciate nature, just like we do every day here in Montana. And back when I was in high school, I started Safe Rides because my commitment to healthy communities started when I was in high school, and I started a program that allowed my colleagues and classmates to not get behind the wheel under the influence of alcohol. In my time as a prosecutor, I've had the opportunity to become a certified child welfare law specialist, bringing me to the top of my field. And I've also had the opportunity, while I've been campaigning, to create bridges and reach out to all of our community leaders. I've reached out to the municipal court to see the changes that have happened since the change in leadership there in 2011, and I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And I've seen the positive changes that we can bring to Missoula County's Justice Court to make our entire community healthier and stronger and safer. And I believe that my bridge building is going to be successful and make me the best justice of the peace, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you for being here. It's taking time out of your busy schedules, and we as candidates really appreciate your participation, your ability to be here tonight. My name is Matt Erickson, and I'm also running for Justice of the Peace. I think we all are, so you know that. I am an attorney. I went to the John Marshall Law School in Chicago. I think I'm one of the 3 or 4 in town that didn't go to law school here, which brings a different perspective, different educational background. I did grow up in Billings, Montana, moved there when I was 9, lived there most of my life. I moved here three and a half years ago when I changed jobs. I had been working in Billings and commuting to Columbus, Stillwater County as Deputy County Attorney. Here I'm working for Collection Professionals, a debt collection company. I have experience for 4 years as a Deputy County Attorney. Before that I had my own private practice. Before that I was the City Attorney for Laurel, Montana. And I've seen, again, as my companions here have, both sides of the law. We've seen criminal, we've seen civil, and it has given me a unique outlook. I'm new and I'm independent. I do not have a whole lot of friends here in town. I've only been here 3.5 years. I didn't grow up here. I didn't go to school here. And so with that, I also have no promises to keep, no commitments to anybody. And that's what makes me different from the rest, is that I am truly independent without those ties and commitments. And again, I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marie Anderson, and I'm the one candidate that has judicial experience. I guess Matt had experience in Yellowstone County subjudging. I was in municipal court for 9 years. I co-presided over Veterans Court and co-occurring court for 3.5 years. That is a court in which people go who have mental health issues and co-occurring substance abuse issues. I have also been substitute judging in the Missoula County Justice Court since 2008. While I was at municipal court, the Montana Supreme Court appointed me to the Commission on Courts of Limited Jurisdiction. This is the entity that determines the curriculum for training for all courts of limited jurisdiction judges in Montana. They're required to go to school twice a year, and I was on the commission that determined that curriculum. I was also a presenter at those judicial trainings, again, twice a year, and I was a mentor judge. That means when there were new judges coming on the bench, they would be assigned a mentor so that if they had questions or problems or issues, they had an experienced judge to go to ask questions of. Prior to being a judge, I owned and operated a complicated business here in Missoula with my partner for 12 years. It was a manufacturing, wholesale, retail business. I also worked at the Public Defender's Office for 2 years. I represented indigent people charged with crimes, both felony and misdemeanors. And I also represented parents whose children had been removed by DFS or people who were being involuntarily committed. I have extensive experience in court, both practicing and on the bench. And I also served doing a lot of pro bono work at the CVA's office.
Thank you and welcome. Thanks so much for coming in and welcome. We'll start with our first question. The first question is, in January of 2009, the code of judicial conduct was adopted in Montana. January 2009, judicial conduct was adopted in Montana. Why is it so important to the judiciary and to the political process that all judicial candidates and judges follow these rules? We're going to do a round robin with each answer, so the next person who is first is Matt Lowy. 1 minute to answer the question. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. In January of 2009, the Code of Judicial Conduct was adopted in Montana. Why is it so important to the judiciary and to the political process that all judicial candidates and judges follow these ethical rules?
So the Code of Judicial Conduct is what governs judges and governs their impartiality. And the reason why it's important is for judges to be able to be fair, even, and impartial, not be beholden unto a political group. It's particularly important in the district court judges, the courts that are above the Justice Court, and the Montana Supreme Court, where they hear issues about ballot measures and other issues that are of political import. There was a second part of your question, which was?
The political process, why judges should follow these rules.
And judges should follow these rules to demonstrate their impartiality.
Again, Matt Erickson, and it is very important that judges, as well as other people in the state, have ethics, have moral compass to guide us. We in Montana are very lucky that we have, by our nature as Montanans, you know, in my practice, 99% of the people in Montana are basically honest. There's that few that aren't. When I was going to law school in the Chicago area, it was right after what they had was the Gray Lord scandal, where the judges were arrested for taking bribes. We don't have that issue here, but we as judges and judge candidates need to show that we do have ethics. We need to follow the rules that have been set out, and that's why they're there, and that's why we need to be following them, is to show our ethics by example. Thank you.
The Montana Code of Judicial Conduct replaced the old judicial canons of ethics. The new code that was enacted in January 2009 is mandatory. There is no choice. The old judicial canons of ethics were just a recommendation. They were not mandatory. Some portions of the Code of Judicial Conduct apply to judicial candidates as well as to judges. The Code of Judicial Ethics is crucial to maintaining an independent judiciary. You must have independence from political influence to have the integrity of our judicial system be maintained. There has to be a separation of powers, which means you do not want the legislative or administrative branches of government having any type of influence on the judicial branch of government. That's the only way that we can guarantee the independence and integrity and dignity that we have in our judicial system.
Well, I think they've just about said everything I can say about the code, but I think it's what you would want in a judge. I think it's what you would hope every judge that comes to the bench would be. And even beyond the code or the written established rules, I want to have somebody in there that understands the rules, abides by them, and doesn't try to skirt around them or disregard them if they don't fit what you want to have accomplished. So I think it's important to have somebody that follows the golden rule and also respects people and respects the community. So that's what I would try to do, just be above reproach.
Thanks. Thanks. Our next question is in regards to technology. How will you use technology to improve the Justice Court? And please be specific. There was an additional question that included including digital files and the future of e-filing. We will start with Matt Erickson.
I know that they're working on e-filing. I don't have a good answer to say I will do X, Y, or Z. It's going to depend on funding. It's going to depend on timing with that funding, what we can afford to buy. I know they've done some experiments when I was in Yellowstone County with electronic filing, and in all honesty, I'm not sure where that's at with the full court process, full court being one of the computer programs they have for keeping track of everything. And so I cannot give a specific on what I can or cannot do, because again, it's a funding issue that right now I have no control over. Thank you.
And I would have an answer somewhat similar to Matt's. I'm not in justice court, and I don't know the status of upcoming projects, what is already in the works, if there's funding designated for the near future for new technology. Obviously, if new technology helps the court to be more efficient and the workload for the clerks to be lighter and more efficient, I definitely would want to proceed with better technology. But again, I don't know where they're at, I don't know what's in the works, and I don't know what kind of a budget there is. So I can't make a promise or give you a specific outlay of how that would look.
I look frightened every time this comes near me. E-filing is on the way. We have already had some training on that, and we'll continue the training. The best way to embrace technology is to learn as much as you can about it, not shy from it, but be trained and get the resources you need to deal with the programs as they come in. Communication is key. You have to communicate to all departments. We've just recently had a rollout that didn't go as smoothly as I think the county would have liked to have the New World program in place. And a lot of people were left out of that transition, and that has seriously impacted justice court. So as the e-filing comes online, we need to get people trained, we need to get support, and we need to increase payment methods, electronic, having people appear via computer, having people appear via Skype if possible, payments through text. I mean, there are all kinds of innovations that are coming up that we just need to be prepared to embrace and use to make everybody's life easier. As the court gets busier, we have to free up clerks to do the work, or we have to hire new people, and hiring people is expensive.
So I would use technology to improve justice court through safety, through efficiency, and through accuracy. I met with a gentleman here in town who has a PhD in computer programming, and he has a law degree. And we talked about what we can do with digital filing. We talked about the opportunity to create orders, as municipal court has since the change in leadership in 2011. And we can create orders that would go to dispatch so that officers responding on scene would be able to understand whether or not somebody was violating a court order, whether it's conditions of release or a sentence and judgment. It would increase efficiency because I'm proficient in full court because I've been using it for the last 7 years here in Missoula, Montana. And I know how to use full court from top to bottom in order to make the court process more efficient and make people in court spend less time. And as far as accuracy goes, my office routinely is unable to charge felony cases because of the record keeping that happened in municipal court before 2011. Missoula City court records weren't accurate enough in order to charge some felonies because the underlying convictions were constitutionally infirm. This is going to prevent that, and it's going to lead to more public safety.
Thank you. Next question is oh, I'm sorry.
We all did.
No, we all did.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
The next question is, what would you recommend to improve service delivery for both partners in partner-family member assault issues? We'll start with Marie Anderson.
Service delivery?
To improve service delivery, or in the role of the court in which you would have control over.
Okay. What I would do first off is just speak with Judge Orzek about what procedures are in place, and all of the clerks who are currently in court about what procedures are in place regarding people seeking orders of protection and the communications with the Crime Victim Advocate's Office, and just figure out what improvements, if any, need to be made or could be made to improve services. I know that we did something in municipal court that was as simple as having, I'll say women, usually women, but not always, wait in a separate room for orders of protection hearings so they didn't have to sit in the courtroom with the person who was violent toward them. So even just having small changes like that, in essence, I would have really good communication with the CBA's office to understand how the court could make the experience that the person receives in the court not traumatic, not being re-victimized by the experience in the court, and being supported in the whole process of getting an order of protection or having to testify at a partner or family member assault trial.
I think PFMA cases or partner family member cases are probably one of the hardest things for a judge to work with, because there are so many emotions and so many people involved that have never been there before or done that before. So I think really it's one of those cases where you need a judge that has some kind of compassion and empathy for people, who is willing to speak with people and suss out what they are actually going through. And what I've noticed in my experience in justice court is that a lot of times people that are involved in violence have been in our court before on civil matters and have visited us on other matters, and before it reaches that violence stage. So I think that there could be some precursors to looking and offering some help when people are going through some civil problems, maybe making more information available to them. I like the way justice court handles it now, where the people that are seeking orders of protection speak with the judge directly before an order of protection, a temporary order, is signed. And I would just make sure that the temporary orders of protection are kept easy to use and easy to get out to the law enforcement, so that there's no confusion among law enforcement when they get the orders of protection, and the red tape is cut down.
So I think the judge in domestic violence, intimate partner violence, has a real opportunity to help victims and the accused. They can do it with the timing. They can help them by tailoring sentencing if there's a conviction. And they can also do it by changing the language that we use around intimate partner violence. First, as far as timing goes, I have had an opportunity of serving on the Just Response multidisciplinary team here in Missoula County. And I've heard victims that have gone through the process, and one of the things they highlight is not just how the delay in the cases, but how long it takes them to get justice served. If we could fast track some of these domestic violence cases, and we could move these criminal cases to the top of the judicial calendar, so that the cases were heard faster, so that there was less uncertainty and justice sooner for the victims of the crime, it would provide better services to the people who are in court against their will, the victims. The second thing we can do is we can change the language. People aren't imposed anger management. That's not what the statute calls for. I've had an opportunity visiting with Rick McLeod. I've reached out to Brad Boylan and Tootie Welker, and I've had an opportunity to visit with these community leaders about how we can change the language that we use about intimate partner violence. When people are sentenced, they should be sentenced to counseling. And how do we look at that counseling? Well, my touchstone as an attorney is the law, and 45.5.206 is the statutory section that tells us about partner member assault. Partner member assault, when you're sentenced, you have to have an assessment done. Well, frequently what we do is we go through the process too quickly, and we get straight to sentencing without taking the time to make an assessment. The assessment is done after the sentence, and the judge is already out of it. What we need to do is slow down the process. We need to allow the assessment to be completed. When the judge gets a copy of the assessment, then the judge can bring the defendant back into court, and we can tailor sentencing to the needs of the family, and we can help keep our Missoula families stronger and protect our victims. Oh, you need this.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. I don't have authority to do it, but the thing that, as a prosecutor in Stillwater County, I found the biggest problem in domestic violence cases, in restraining orders in any of this was when the police respond, the sheriff's department responds to a partner member family assault and arrest what they believe is the perpetrator, I would say 90% of the time before our sheriff's deputy could transport them to the nearest jail, which was Yellowstone County, the victim generally beat the police officer there. I would like to see a way, and I do not have details on how to get it accomplished, I would like to see a way that would not allow the victim to post the bond for the perpetrator. That puts them right back together. That in Stillwater County, that put them right back together, driving back home, subjecting the person to the same violence that they had just been separated from by the police officers. Again, I don't have authority to do that because that's going to take more than what I have or what the Justice of the Peace Authority has. That, to me, would be the first thing I would like to see done. And also, I've found that as opposed to anger management, most of the people need just general marriage counseling and or some type of mentoring so that they know how to act. They know how to treat people. They know how to treat their partner. It's not just anger that they have a problem with, it's other things. It's their marriage relationship. It's something that they need mentoring on. And so I would like to see them separated for a longer period of time and more and better counseling. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask at this time if there are any additional questions. We can pass out pieces of paper. If you would like to take take a piece of paper and write down a question, you'd be more than welcome. I do have to add that I have a couple of questions up here that seem to be directed at one candidate or another, and we won't ask questions that are directed specifically at one candidate. So I won't be reading those questions. The next question, I believe, goes to Beverly.
Okay.
First, and it is, do you believe the purpose of the justice system is punishment/retribution or reform of the offender?
I believe that punishment and retribution was the original intent of the justice system, although we've come to now believe in rehabilitation, and I think that's the way to go. I mean, to decrease recidivism, it is important that we get treatment for a lot of people and get them out of the system. And just putting them in jail is not going to accomplish that. So we need to have some good treatment programs. I believe Missoula needs to have more options in treatment programs. We don't currently have, we only have one currently certified alcohol, tobacco, or alcohol treatment program in Missoula. And there's another one as close as Superior that you have to drive to. So anger management is an expensive proposition at best, and we need to have more providers for that. Justice court should be punitive, and it should be swift and firm, but compassionate and helpful, and all those things that you want a court to be. Thank you.
So when it comes to imposing sentence and judgment in criminal cases, my touchstone is the law. And Title 46, Chapter 18, 101 tells us sentence and judgment guidelines. Punishment commensurate with the nature and degree of harm caused. Protection of the community. Restitution for the victims, and an opportunity for rehabilitation for the offenders. My experience representing Child and Family Services these last 6.5 years has really plugged me into the services that Missoula County offers, and we offer we have a rich resource of services that we can use to impose rehabilitation for people. We also have the opportunity then to impose punishment, because we have a jail. I believe that based on my experience as a criminal prosecutor and as a civil attorney plugged into the rehabilitative end of the criminal justice system, that I can hit the sweet spot almost every time in cases where punishment is imposed in a criminal conviction.
I think he restated the law accurately, that the legislature says the purpose is punishment. my experience has been that it needs to be to protect the community first and then punishment. And I would see to it and take the steps to protect the community from some of the people who are, as has been said earlier this evening, that 10% that are the frequent flyers. That we truly do need to be protected from some of these people and not be a revolving door. Punishment is part of that protection. Restitution, rehabilitation are other parts of that program. But to me, even though it wasn't one of the first options mentioned in the question, protecting the community is what needs to take place. Thank you.
Well, our justice system currently seems to be serving both objectives, which are punishment and rehabilitation. It is difficult to serve both of those masters. I think ideally the best that a judge can do is to try to separate out those who will respond to rehabilitation and treatment versus those who most likely won't, and then it's geared differently toward rehabilitation versus just punishment and community protection. I think everyone should be given an opportunity for treatment, counseling, rehabilitation. I think that's in the public's best interest, so it cuts down on recidivism, but I also feel a great obligation to protect the public from those who are truly dangerous. And so just having a sense for how to separate those out is valuable to have in a judge, because the system is serving both objectives and they don't necessarily match. And so you have to tailor things for each defendant to serve both of those objectives based on what's best in that particular case or that particular situation.
Thank you. Let's see, we're back to Matt Lowy answers the first question. How do you plan to work with all the other courts in Missoula, city, justice, and district? Do you have past experiences that may impact this?
So my plan is to try to utilize the people who have come before me, who have been judges before me, and to see what they have done that has worked and what has not worked. And so over the last 15 months now that I've been talking about and running to be Missoula County's next Justice of the Peace, I've had an opportunity to visit with Missoula's district court judges. I've had an opportunity to visit with the Missoula city court judges. I've had an opportunity to visit with both Judge Odlin and Judge Orzik in Missoula's Justice Court. I actually routinely now have a standing lunch with Judge Odlin, and I routinely meet with him to figure out what he's done that has worked and to see what he would recommend for making changes that would improve the system. I also took the opportunity to visit with members of the Justice Court staff, and I've had the opportunity of seeing some of the changes that have gone on at Missoula's City Court and seeing what's worked well there and what the changes there can be implemented for increased efficiency in Missoula's Justice Court. Particularly with the change in leadership in Missoula's municipal court, the city court, we've seen some trial and error, and we've seen some things that have worked and that haven't. And by being able to reach out to the new leadership at Missoula's city court, I've had the opportunity of understanding, of learning from past mistakes so that they won't be repeated. And that increases efficiency for everyone here in Missoula's Justice Court. Because by being able to not repeat past mistakes of other courts, I will be able to move on effectively and efficiently and save taxpayer resources and further public safety.
Okay, thank you. This is one where I think that my newness here and my brief experience of 3 years here actually is a benefit. I don't have any preconceptions. I don't have any bridges that have been burnt with any of the other judges. I don't have any of the negative experiences. No, I don't have positive ones to build on, but I don't have any of the negative that have to be gotten rid of. I can work with the courts. I have a clean slate when it comes to meeting with all of the other judges, working with all of the other, not just judges, but other departments, with the other people in the process that we will be going forward with. One of my experiences was that when I went to work for Stillwater County was that the previous deputy county attorney had burnt all the bridges, being the typical arrogant lawyer that he was. And it took some time, but I was able to rebuild the bridges with the judicial staff there to the point where we were able to be very efficient. I have the ability to listen. I have the ability, at times, being the lawyer I am, not all times, but at times I have the ability to keep my mouth shut and listen. And that is something that I'll be bringing. The lack of those bridges that have been burnt and the ability to keep my mouth shut and listen. Thank you.
Well, there isn't always a whole lot of overlap with all of the courts in town. You interact with them periodically, but not necessarily on a regular basis. So I anticipate a good working relationship with district court, with the other justice of the peace, and with municipal court. Any issues in the past, I'm sure will remain in the past, as we're all professionals. And if it's in both of our best interests to get something solved or moving forward, I'm sure that's what will happen. I have a good working relationship with all of the district court judges, so I guess I would just continue in the same vein, communicating when it's necessary. If they need information from me or if I need information from them, just communicating as we always have.
What I can tell you about Justice Court now is that they have an incredible staff, present company excluded, I guess. But I'm very proud of the work we do in Justice Court. And everything we do every day is to make the place work better and to run efficiently and to work better for the people we serve. And that's not going to change whoever's elected. People have been there, they don't change the job there. We've worked there for a long time and we do a good job. And the key here is to get the right people in the right positions, to get them the right training, to get them the tools they need to be successful, and then communication with other departments. We need to be facilitating that communication between the county attorney's office, between city court, and between defendants and attorneys. And I know all those people, I've worked with all those people. I know which ways work, and I'll tell you what, if you're competent and you do your job well, people respect you and they treat you well. And that's what Justice Court has been striving to do for these many years and will continue to do, regardless of who's at the helm.
All right, candidates. I believe, given our time, it's 7:53. We'll do this question, and then we'll have a 1-minute closing statement, and then I believe we'll be done. So this final question is in regards to what would you do within the power of your court, and what sentencing works for repeat DUI offenders? And we're starting with
Yeah.
Mr. Erickson.
Yeah, I had that. I was taking a deep breath. I knew I was starting.
I thought we did that.
I am on the Lawyers Assistance Program committee for the state bar. That's a committee that works with attorneys who have drug and alcohol or other related issues and problems. And I've done that for almost 10 years now. 8 and a half, 9 and a half, whatever it's been. And I've had, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, had the opportunity to work with a lot of attorneys who have been addicted. Being a teetotaler myself, having never tasted alcohol, I don't understand alcoholism as people who have been alcoholics do. I know of no program, AA works, other counseling works, but I know of no program that will get an alcoholic to stop drinking, period. I wish there was something out there. I wish I could say, I got this magic solution that this alcoholic is never going to drink again, and if he drinks, he's never going to drive. Alcoholics have something in their makeup that indicates that they know, I mean, being a defense attorney, defending alcoholics who have been drinking and driving, they know that they can beat that breathalyzer every time, and they blow every time because they know they're smarter than that breathalyzer. It is something in their makeup that we as a court do not have, and I don't see, maybe these guys have a better answer than I do. I don't know a way to get an alcoholic to stop being an alcoholic. And that's long and short of it. I've seen people go through the watch program. I've seen people go through jail. I've seen it all. I've defended, I gotta stop. Okay, I won't give you my final story. All right.
I agree with what Matt has to say. In terms of what judges can do, the things that I found most effective were continued alcohol monitoring until they completed treatment. So they would be monitored for alcohol consumption through their treatment program and through any recommended follow-up treatment. So that could be several months. I also found it effective to have them come back in a few times after they were sentenced. So when I would pronounce a sentence, I would also set a status hearing for about 30 days out. And they knew that they were going to come back and see me, and I was going to ask them, have you enrolled in the alcohol program? I'd also know if there were any violations in terms of consuming alcohol. And just the knowledge that they were going to come back in and talk to me about that upped the compliance. So that I found very effective. And people who were complying without having to be chased down, I would periodically knock $50 off their fine, and they didn't know I was going to do it. I would just say, because you're doing so well, I'm taking $50 off your fine. So that was helpful. Treatment courts work. So again, I don't know the lay of the land in justice court. I don't know what's possible. I can tell you a well-run treatment court can be helpful for recidivism, but the person who is in that treatment court, they kind of have to be ready for it, but it's coerced intensive treatment. And it can work for people that nothing else has worked for. And some people it doesn't work for, but a lot of people it does. We went to Georgia to observe a DUI court and go through training, and it was phenomenal.
To agree with Matt, I don't think that alcohol problems in Montana are going to stop. Drinking and driving is going to stop until the culture changes around alcohol in Montana. And I think that Montana too needs to adopt a zero alcohol tolerance for driving and substances in cars. But until that happens, what Justice Court can do is be firm, consistent, and fair, and get people to treatment. I'd like to see Justice Court give them a break on the fines if they get the treatment and get the aftercare that they need. I'd like to see Justice Court make sure that they stay in communication with county attorneys so we retain jurisdiction on the cases so that we can make them finish their treatment and pursue the follow-up care that's recommended by the treatment provider. Beyond that, I would like to see us use programs that monitor people. There are bracelets, patches, machines you blow in and it takes your picture so you can't get other people to blow in your car for you. So there are all kinds of new technologies that are available, and I'd like to see Justice Court make use of those so that we can keep people off the street, because ultimately that's the goal, is to get them to a place where they're not hurting anybody else or going to cause any more problems.
Stacy, could you please reread the question?
What would you do within the power of your court to determine what sentencing works for repeat DUI offenders? And I don't think I read that exactly the same way, so I'll try to rephrase it. What sentencing works for repeat DUI offenders, and what would you use within the power of your court to implement those sentences that you see fit?
Thank you. There is no magic silver bullet that's going to work for all repeat DUI offenders. The things that we can do include what we're doing for people on pretrial supervision. We have the SAP program here. I've had an opportunity of visiting with Sue Wilkins and Ray Reiser at Missoula Correctional Services about how that works here in Missoula County. We have intoxilizers so that we can keep people from getting behind the wheel after they've been drinking. We have the opportunity of education. The Justice of the Peace has an opportunity to go into schools and be preventive in nature and teach our students when they're getting their driver's licenses why they're not going to get behind the wheel after they've been drinking. We also have the opportunity of misdemeanor probation when people are sentenced on a repeat DUI so that we can help them get through their treatment so that they're not going to come back again. Because that's what keeps our community safe and that's what keeps our families strongest, is if we can keep people from coming back before the court. You know, for me, as a practical matter, my touchstone, as I say, is always the law. And 618401 tells us what a DUI is, that your ability to safely operate a motor vehicle is diminished by the consumption of alcohol. And your sentencing is in 700s. Your repeat DUI offenders, our Montana legislature changed that look back from 5 years to 10. So now we've cast a wider net over repeat DUI offenders and how we're going to be able to administer treatment to more people. We need to be sure that we're tailoring the treatment to the individual needs, how many repeat DUIs they have, what are their other alcohol offenses, do they have MIPs? And we should be able to use digital technology to have our courts communicate with each other and figure out whether or not they have other judgments in other courts, like minors in possession at a city court, or do they have other things that show us that there's a deeper problem, and we should be tailoring the needs of the individual so that they don't come back before the court again, and that their repeat DUI is their last DUI.
Thanks. Candidates, would you like to make a closing statement? And we'll start with Marie Anderson.
And it's 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay.
Well, what I can offer is a lot of experience. A lot of experience as a judge, a lot of experience as an attorney, a lot of experience as a business owner, teaching other attorneys. I also have a lot of experience with domestic violence. The first client that I ever had out of law school was taken hostage by her husband and kept for several days. He ended up killing himself. She got away and we proceeded, but that was my first exposure to domestic violence, and I have a great interest in it and a lot of extra training that I've received for it. I know what the work is like. I'm devoted to the work. I'm devoted to Missoula. I feel a call to serve.
I guess after the last little get-together we had with the candidates, one of my friends said that, and watched the talk anyway, said that they didn't see a great deal of passion from the candidates and me as well. And what I wanted to say is that I'm very passionate about this job. I've watched it being done now for 8+ years, and I really want to do this job. I really want to do well at this job, and I really want Missoula County Justice Court to be the best place to be and to work for all the employees and do its job the best it can. And that's really all that motivates me. I don't have any ulterior motives for wanting to be JP. I just really want to do the job and do a good job for the county of Missoula.
I've been enforcing Montana's laws for the last 10 years. My boss has been you, the citizens of Montana. I know somebody else signs my paycheck, but the citizens of Montana are the people I represent every day when I go to court. I've done further things to advance my education. I've taken Master's in Public Administration courses to make me an efficient and effective leader of this county agency. I offer a fresh perspective, and I offer new ideas to lead us into the cutting edge of the 21st century. And for those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your support, not as casting a vote, but you're making an investment in the future of Missoula County when you support Matt Lowy as Missoula County's next Justice of the Peace.
Again, I would like to thank each of you for coming here tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule. I think we all are grateful for it, for the opportunity to speak to you, to share with you some of our opinions, our ideas, our desire to serve, my desire to serve this county, my desire to serve the public. I think that I have the ability, the wisdom, the age, the experience that I would make an excellent judge. I have the ability to look at people, to make judgments, to follow through on those judgments. I would like to serve this county by being the next JP, and thank you again for your time.